Hi everyone, so welcome back to the Love of Coding. So in today's video, we're going to talk about static site generating from Next.js. And in this video, I'm going to explain you everything I know about it. And it's going to be 4 parts. So the first one is we going to talk about getStaticProps, how to use it, what is that, and why is it important for our static generating and getStaticPaths. And the next thing is we want to do the paginations and with the static site generating. And also the last one is we want to talk about the ISR and what is that and why it's also important and when to use it with static generating. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. And last one, if someone who doesn't know what is SSG, so SSG stands for static site generating. I think it's either generating or generations. So it is like describe a process of building a website. So this is definition of it that render at build time. And then after that, the output is going to be HTML files or the JavaScript, CSS, and a few other static files. So which means is that, let's say, for example, we have our component right here. That our component is going to fetch the network, fetch the data from the network request. So when we use static generating, so all of that happen at build times, and it's going to generate us an HTML that a user can just go to that HTML page directly, and they doesn't have to make the network request to fetch the data from the server or from the database. So I'm going to show you what exactly it look like, and for that we're gonna do this in this demo video so you can see it and experience it by yourselves. All right, so I think that's pretty much it, so let's get started. All right, so here I'm using VS Code, so you can use any tag editor you want, and this is just a boilerplate from Create Next apps. And if you want to follow along, you can just go into my GitHub repository right here. I'll leave the link in the description, clone this one, or you can create a new project by your own, and it is fine. But for this one, I just create 2 pages already. So this one is a dynamic page. It's gonna render the post detail, and for this one, it's just gonna render the list of posts right here. And we have like an H1, and we have a div right here. So to start this one, you can do yarns run div to start our development server. Okay, so also we're gonna use the API from JSON placeholder right here, and I left the link in the description as well. So this one we're gonna limit 10, so it's gonna beneficial us for the demo for the pagination. All right, so for this part we're going to first talk about the getStaticProps. So if you look at the documentation from Next.js, getStaticProps is the functions that whenever that we use this one inside our page, Next.js will pre-render this page at build time using props returned by getStaticProps. So it means that whenever we use this function, Next.js will know that, okay, our page is gonna, everything that inside this one, it's gonna do that at build times, and it's gonna static cache this one. Okay, so let's see how we can use this one. So first, I'm gonna copy this function right here. And we're gonna go into our index right here, and we pass this one, and the contact right here is just a parameter of getStaticProps, and the props right here will be passed to our component. So let's say if I have the props called data, I'm gonna say hello. I can change from this one to data, and then I can just display this one right here. We have a data right here. So then if I go back to localhost 3000, and you can see we have the hello because it's a prop from our getStaticProps right here. Okay, very nice. So right now, what I wanted to do is, rather than doing this one, we're gonna fetch the data from our API, which is this API right here. So I'm gonna copy this one. So we're gonna do some fetching for this one. Okay, so right now, this just enable us to fetch the post from the API. So I'm going to pass this post right here as the props to our component. So right now I'm going to change this one back to post, and then I can just uncomment right here, and I have already written this code already. And so right here, I'm gonna do like one more. It's gonna be post.id to we cannot see clearly. Okay, so right now if I'm go back in here, as you can see right here, we have the post from 1 to 10, which is fetched from the API. And so right now, what this means is that so whenever that we go into this page, so when we build this one, whenever we go to this page, we doesn't have to make send any network request to it or anything, because after we build this one, is gonna be static. So let's start building this one. So first, if you go into the server, you can go to pages and index right here. We do not see anything. So what we expect from this one, after I got built, I should have like the index HTML that generate that we can see the content of the list, like user ID, the content of this one, because it's being cached. So let's do that. Yons run builds. All right, so right now our build is complete. If we go and check our server, we go to page. So as you can see, we have like we build this one and we can see the index HTML. This is our page we just built. And if you look at the content inside here, you will see exactly like the post right here. We're gonna have like a user ID, like a title, and everything that we just fetch from a networks. It's been fetched and cached. The data is there already. And next thing is to like it just pass this one, and then so we don't have to fetch again. So right now, to start this one, you can just run start, and that's pretty much it. So right now our data is right here, and it's served from the cache. So yeah, I think that pretty much it for on how to getStaticProps works. Okay, so in this part, we're gonna talk about getStaticPaths and when we going to use this one. So if we look at the Next.js documentation, so if a page has a dynamic route and it uses getStaticProps, then it needs defines a list of static paths to be static generated. So it means like if we have a dynamic page, and then inside that page we use getStaticProp because we want that dynamic page to be static as well. And as we know, whenever we use this function, Next.js will pre-render it. So we need to have like a getStaticPath as well. So for this one, well, what we're gonna do next is to get our post right here, and then we're gonna do the post detail. So whenever I'm gonna click on one of this link right here, this one, it's gonna redirect me to a new route, and it's gonna show me like the post detail. So let's do that. So I'm gonna go into index right here, rather return the h1. All right, so right now, as you can see, I just wrapped the h2 with the links, and our link right here is gonna be post ID. So whenever we click on here, it's gonna return us to the dynamic page based on the post ID that we have in here. Okay, so and then we're gonna make sure that we're gonna do yons run dev again. So if you make sure you have run dev, so then whenever you change right here, it's gonna take effects. Right now, if I click on one of the link, I think make sure I click on this one. Okay, click on the link, it's gonna redirect me to each page right here. Very nice. Right now, if I go in here, so I want to post detail. Each post of the detail is going to be static as well, and so I'm gonna use the this function, the getStaticProps. And then rather than fetch right here of the individual post, we're gonna go into the post individuals based on the params that we get. So to get the params, you can get it from the context. Let's say for this one's context dot params dot id. So because we square bracket id right here, that's why we add this one. And then we can not gonna have a list of posts. We can just have one post. And if we go into our API, if we go into a individual post, you will see like the user ID, title, and body. So then we're gonna pass this one as a props to our component, and our h1 right here is gonna have like a post ID, and also the post title. And then for this one is we're gonna do post.body. Okay, very nice. So right now, if I'm going back here, if I click one of this one, we got an error. Okay, that's okay. This is supposed to be an error that we get. So if you can see that this is the, whenever we use the dynamic post, is static path is needed. So as you can see, the error right here is that, okay, the static path need to be generated for our dynamics page. So this is, as you can see, to be static generated. Okay, so right now we're gonna do this one. So you can see, in order to do that, we're gonna use this function right here. So the path. So it means like the path right here is gonna be like the /1, 2 or things right here. So they need to be generated, pre-generated. So in order to this one, we can copy this function. So we already do that. And then for the fallback right here, we're gonna talk about more later, but for now I'm gonna do it's false. And the param right here will be the value of the path. So it's gonna be, for now I'm gonna just get static for this one, and make sure this one is, the value is string, not integer. And right now, if I'm gonna refresh this one, I can see the post detail right here. Very nice. But if I go to page number 2, we're gonna get 4 because our param right here, you can see we have only ID number 1, right? So we need to get more ID on this one. So for this one, we're gonna do list, the same list for this one right here. We're gonna fetch this one, and from post right here, we can do the path. We do something like this. All right, so right now, as you can see, so we're gonna fetch the data from list of the post, and then from that we can generate the path based on the post ID. And as you can see, we return as a dictionary of the params, and then with the post ID, and then we do .toString because it's needed to be a string, and then we pass it to right here. So right now we statically generate our path, 10 path for it. So right now, if you go back right here, you can go into any path you want. So you can go into the page number 10, and you go page 11, it's gonna be 404. Because why? Because we statics this one, we fetch only this one for only 10 posts only. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So right now we're gonna build this one, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen to our cache right here. So I'm gonna do yarn run builds. Okay, so right now after our build complete, you can take a look at the server page right here. So as you can see that we statically cache pre-render our page from page number 1 to page number 10. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So right now, if you go into each of the page, it doesn't have to make any network requests because it's statics there. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. All right, so for the next part, we're gonna talk about the fallback right here. When are we going to use this one, and what is the property of it, and what does it do? All right, so see you guys in the next part. All right, so right now we're gonna talk about the fallback. So as you can see, our fallback sets right here, we set it to false. And so what is that? So the fallback for right here, it means that if we trying to access the route that does not exist in our path right here, it's going to return us to page 404. As you can see right here, we fetch our route is gonna be 10 path, right? To 10 path, right? So because we fetch 10 right here. Okay, so right now if I'm trying to go the page that is not exist from 1 to 10, it's gonna redirect me to the page not found, as you can see. And that is pretty much it for fallback fall. And the next thing is we're gonna talk about is fallback true. So fallback true is good for something like pagination. Because why? So let's say you have like 1,000 posts, like, you know, let's say you have 1,000 posts. Let's say I'm gonna change right here, rather than do the limit, I'm gonna do like for every 10 posts. As you can see, like like 100 posts, and so this is the problem. So if you have like 1,000 posts, you don't want to list everything, right? Because it's gonna slow your build times. So that's why we do the paginations. And then this is where the fallback true here is gonna help. Because right now, if let's say if I change the fallback to false, and I do the, if I do the paginations right here to like 100, So then if I generate this one, if I go into each of the page right here, that is not, so it's gonna go into page 70, it's gonna page 44, and then it's problem, and because we have to either like change this one to like generate it 100 posts as well. So we don't want to do that. We want to do some limits for this one, and so let's say I'm gonna put the limit back, so and then we're gonna change this one to true. So whenever we do something fallback true, it means like when we get access to this page, so it means like this page is trying to render like a normal component. It has a falling back state, and that's why you can see that it try to re-render as a normal page. So right now, what we can do for this one, since it has like a falling back state, what we can do if we have checked if this one, if it's not post yet, we can just do return some loading right here. So if I'm gonna refresh like here, so we get do some loading, because it takes time to fetch the data, that's why we get some loading, and then we return this data. So, but one after it's being fetched, if you try to go to this page again, let's see, as you can see inside the server, inside of a page, after I think this one is in development mode, you can see this one. But let's say if you try to build this one right now. All right, so right now after our build of a page, we can go into our server and we can go to a page. So right now we go from 1 to 10. And then if let's see this one. Oops, so we need to start our server. Make sure you do that. Okay, very nice. So right now we cache only page 1 to 10. If I go to the page, let's say 98, it's do some loading, it's fetching, and then we have received this data. But if I try to go this page again, it's there. We doesn't have like any user that go to this page. It's already being fetched and it's cached there. So if you take a look at the page JSON right here, it's being cached, as you can see. That's why the falling back true, it is good for something like paginations. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you can go to any page, like let's say I'm gonna go page 22, and it's get that page, and then it's gonna be statics for this one. Okay, so that's really nice. So you can first like and that's why you can change here from loading to, let's say, skeleton component and something like that. Okay, the last one is going to be a blocking. All right, so let's do that. So we have true, and then we're gonna have change this one to blocking. And so what is that? Blocking. So I'm gonna close this one. We're gonna do this on Dave, otherwise it's unable to see. So it's gonna behave the same things. Blocking, similar to, not the same thing, like similar to true. So right now, if I'm trying to access to the page, let's say 11 posts, which does not exist, and let's say I'm gonna go to page 100. So you can see there's no much different, but the difference is that the blocking between true is that for page, when we use true, we can see some loading, right? So like we render component, and then after that we try to fetch it on like a client side, and then we get the data, and that's why you can see the loading. But for the blockings, you're not gonna see this one. You're not gonna see it. So let's try to simulate this one. I'm gonna try to use sleep function. Let's say I'm gonna do await this one. I'm gonna, let's say, sleeps for 3 seconds. So and if you go try, let's say, to the page that you never exit before, let's say 20, because this one is not being cached, right? And if you look at the network request, it's gonna wait for 3 seconds. So when the page is ready, it's gonna send. So as you can see, it's like it's blocking until the page is ready, and then after it finishes, it's gonna send you. It's like do the SSR behind the scenes. But compared to when you use it with true, so I'm gonna do like when you use it with true, if I'm going to go to page, let's say 93, we can see that some loading, and once it's fetched the data already, so it's gonna send you that. So I mean, like, component is already rendered this one, and then once it finish, it's gonna send you that. So the use case right here, you can see, and what is that? The two different, and the use case, it depends on how you use it. So if you want to see it return some user, the skeleton or something like that, you go back to true, but it is state that it is not actually really good for SEO, but so it depends like on which how the use case you want. You can see the difference and use it based upon your use case. But both after you fetch it, it's gonna result in cache as well. So yeah, so after you fetch it already, and if you go to that page again, it won't be fetched. And make sure this take effect when you run build and then you start. So otherwise it's gonna not see anything. If you try on Dave right now, if you go to this page again, it's gonna result the same thing unless you build and start this one. Okay, so all right, so I think that's pretty much it. So for this one, for this fallback right here. All right, so next we're gonna talk about the paginations of these two combination right here. So from the previous path, you may see a bit of how we can do paginations, but so for this one, we're just gonna implement it. So right now, for how we do the pagination is I'm gonna create the button. For this one, is gonna be load more. So let's say I'm gonna do load more, something like that, and then we're gonna do on click for this one. I'm gonna function is gonna be load more as well. You can name it better than this one. I'm gonna do load more. It's gonna be equal to what? So it's gonna fetch the data again. So I'm gonna do this fetch data, but it is going to do start from 10. So since we limit number 10, so it's mean like I'm gonna fetch again, start from the 10 post. So this is what we're gonna do. And then, so first we have our state for our components. So it's gonna list our posts, set list of posts. Okay, it's gonna be use state, which is gonna be the structure from here. Okay, and then our initial props, initial state is going to be the post that we have in here. And then so when we click load more, all right, first make sure that we use this thing right here. So we're gonna set our new post is gonna be, let's say I'm gonna have the value right here. So it's gonna be spread value, and then it's gonna be spread a new post because we know that this post right here is gonna return us an array. Okay, so that is really nice. And let's see, so right now we have this error right here, like because the name right here should be uppercase, so that's why we got this one. So right now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do yawns run build for this one. The build time right here is gonna take time depend on the number of page that you have. So let's say if you gonna do the page for 1,000 page, so it takes time upon that. So that's why pagination is really useful, and because we don't want to build for 1,000 page and its build time is slow, and yep, that's why we do some pagination. So if we go to the server, go to page, we build 1 to 10, and then if I do yawn start, so start our development production server, so I'm gonna do yawn start right here. So what happened if I click load more? So I click load more. Okay, so right now it's not gonna do anything because of this one. So I'm gonna do this one, render. We need to render the list of posts right here. Okay, so once again we need to build this one again. Okay, so after our build is finished, so we're gonna do yawn start. So right now, I'm gonna refresh this one. So we're gonna click on load more. So right now we render 11, like 10 more posts. And if we look at our cache right here, as you can see, when we click load more, behind the scenes, Next.js is gonna do the fetching and caching for every post. And what we need to do is just so right now we go to each post directly and it is good. But let's say if we do not click load more yet, so right now, because our page is being cached right here, so I'm gonna build it again, because when it builds, it's gonna remove our cache. Okay. If you can see, our cache is only do the 1 to 10. So right now I can just go into page 11. Oops. I think I forgot to do yawn run start again. Okay, so right now if I go to page here, it's gonna do some loading for me, and then it's fetching because in this one I'm using fallback true. So this one is depend on your use case. You can do blocks, king, or true. It's up to you. So, but if you gonna make sure that you're not gonna use fall if you're gonna implement the pagination. All right, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it. All right, so in this part, we're gonna talk about the ISR or incremental static generation. So what is that? So to give a definition, I'm gonna show you a demo and I'm gonna talk it what is that. So it's gonna be a little bit more visual, so it's better. So I'm gonna create a new page called randoms.js. I'm gonna paste everything I have in here. So nothing fancy here. I'm gonna explain here. So here we can see it's just like get a static prop. So we want to this page to be static as well. And then for this one, it's just gonna get a random post. So I have a random variable right here, generates between 1 to 10. So then this fetch is gonna get a random post, and we have like display the post right here. Okay. So if I go to yawns run dev, so I'm start this one, and then if we go into random page, so you can see it's gonna every time that I request, it's gonna go into random page. But it's not the case after we build this one. So if I do yawns run build, so whenever I do the yawn run build, so it's gonna take a while. All right, so after our build is finished, and so if you go into the page and you find the randoms HTML, so you can see it's gonna get the page, the post number 6. So if I go into do the yawn start, so right now, what's gonna happen is that my random is gonna stuck at 6. Let's say I want to change it, right? So maybe the data is going to change. So I want to change it. So, but I want it to be static as well. But at one point I want to change it. So how are we going to do that? So there's two steps. There are two ways that you can do. First, you, as we know, like this one happened at build time. So you can build it again. So, but there's a problem. When happen is because imagine if you have a lot of statics page and then you don't want to rebuild it again because it's gonna take a lot of times. So because it's really slow, not really slow, I mean like because it's gonna take a lot of times, and mostly your data is not gonna change. So the data might be changed only for the random page only. This page right here, it's not gonna change. So why do you want to rebuild entire things? So that's why the ISR coming in. So if you go into the definitions right here from Next.js, it states that it let us like without needing to build your entire site. So if you want to, let's say, update your site with dynamic page with some content that's gonna change. So what you can do in this one, just really simple, just add the revalidation right here. So I'll go right here. I'm at the revalidate. So make sure that you put outside the props, and this one is the number of seconds when you want to revalidate this one. So I'm gonna put this one as 3. So this one is just a demo for you, and because we don't want to do like wait for 10 seconds, right? So I'm gonna do yawn run dev, yawn run build. So we want to build this again to make sure that we include the revalidate inside our cache to let them know. Okay, so right now after we build already, so we can do yawn run start again. So first, if we go into the server and then we go to our page and we take a look at the random right here, it's going to be 1, okay? So right now, if I go into the randoms right here, I'm gonna get 1, but if I count, let's say 1, 2, 3, if I request again, it is going to change. So I think if I click again, okay, okay, so as you can see right now, it's going to go to 9 and yep. So then for every 3 seconds, it's gonna do some random. So in between that, it's gonna render the cache. So then if like, so this one right here, you can think about how many seconds you want this one to revalidate. So let's say you want this one to revalidate every 100 seconds and something like that. So this is your choice. And I would recommend that depend on your use case. If you change very often, you shouldn't be use the this static prop as well. So let's say, why would you want to do 1 every second, right? If this is gonna happen, then you should use something like get server side props or something like that, rather than using the get static props. But this just makes sense. Like, okay, I'm gonna change it every like a minute or like or 5 minutes, something like that. And depend on your use case, but yeah, you need to think about which is efficient. But this is just my idea. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for our video. And hope you like it. If I made any mistakes and if I didn't explain anything clear, and you have any question, feel free to ask in the comments. See you guys in the next video. Peace. Bye bye.